This week on Cruising.
Was this a van with the back end cut off? I says, no, man, this is the real deal.
But it really does look like a van with the back cut off.
I've had this since 1959 is when I started driving it.
58 years later, he's still driving it.
I'm liking the quirky things that you don't see too often, something that's a little unusual.
That looks pretty normal to me.
It's a different feeling when you're sitting in front of the wheels compared to most of the time when you're driving, you're used to sitting behind the wheel.
That does seem strange. Plus,
now this frame here is stock off a 50-year-old Bronco, and of course, nothing straight on it.
the Buckeye guys provide straight talk about frames. Are you ready for this episode of Cruise In?
Kind of, sort of.
I'll take that as a yes. Cruise In from Manry Park in Willowick, Ohio starts right now.
This week on Cruise In, it's a home game for me. Hi, I'm Will Burge, and it's the second annual Classic Car Cruise In at Manry Park in Willowick, Ohio. This is where I grew up. There's a ton of great cars, so let's get started.
What we have here is a 6340 Econoline pickup E100. I bought it from a guy on the west side of Cleveland in Ohio City about 3 years ago. Little by little, I've been doing things to it. Still needs a lot more work. It's a big money pit, you know, like all of them.
How'd you find it?
Actually, it was on Craigslist at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
You saw it on Craigslist. Is it something you're looking for, or was like just stumbled across it?
I'm kind of looking for it, but at the time I would have rather had a van, an older van, but the guy he did have a van at the time and had this in the building where I bought it from. I chose this, so.
You don't see these very often.
No, they're very rare. There's from 61 to 67, there was only 60,000 of these made.
So when people see you, they think you chopped the back off, right?
I've had people come up to me. In fact, it wasn't that long ago. A lady came up, says, "Was this a van with the back end cut off?" I says, "No, ma'am. This is the real deal." You know, she thought it was it was a van cut up. You know, but
it's extremely original inside too, right?
Right.
Yeah. So have you done anything in there?
Oh yeah, well the seats aren't original. I got new seats in there. It's a rebuilt motor, new radiator, all the brakes have been redone, gas tank, all new gauges.
When you found it, did it run?
No, the engine, when I bought it, the engine was locked up.
Really?
Yeah.
So what'd you do with it?
I found a motor out of a 67 Mustang, 200 cubic inch, and had that put in.
How fast does it go?
I've only had it up maybe 60.
Yeah.
So, you know, just putt around with it.
So when you drive it out, people have to look at you and go, what is
all the
that
time, yeah, all the time. I get stopped all the time, questions asked all the time, you know.
When someone asks, what is that thing, what's your answer?
It's an Econoline pickup, you know.
Were you looking for something like this, or were you just like, whatever, it doesn't matter?
Pretty much whatever,
yeah.
You know.
You just ended up with a great one.
Right,
there you go. So what have you holding back?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all?
No.
What about me? I need a ride home.
I can give you a ride home now.
Perfect.
Cost you a few bucks, but.
What do you think you can put back there? How much?
Weight-wise?
Yeah. Like how many of me could you put back there?
Probably 8, 10, I'm guessing.
I respect it.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm gonna ride back there on the way home.
Okay.
Where do you live?
Menor.
Perfect. I need a ride home.
Okay.
I'm with you.
We'll fix you right up.
Well, thank you very much for showing us the car.
You're welcome.
Or the truck, or the van, or whatever it is. And I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And it's fantastic, man. Thank you for bringing it out.
Thank you.
Well, this was my high school car.
Really?
I've had this since 1959 is when I started driving it.
You don't look a day over 29.
Yeah.
You just graduated a couple years ago.
Yeah, sure.
How did you get this?
This was originally my aunt's car. She purchased it new, and she passed away at a young age, and my mother got the car, and she drove it for about 3 years. She never liked driving it because it was her sister's car. And then the Almighty here turned 16, and not many guys in my high school had cars.
Yeah.
And I was able to get this car. It was my high school car.
You know what I got for my 16th birthday? Socks, that's what I got. I didn't get one of these, I can tell you that much. So when you drove this around after your 16th birthday,
Yeah.
what did the other guys in school say?
Most of the other guys got to ride in it for 25
there you
cents.
go.
Yeah, for
So
20.
they won too.
Yeah, because we could get gas for it, you know?
Does it always look like this?
No, my grandmother was a little bit involved in this, and she said you can have the car as long as you don't hot rod it and tear it up. It sat in the garage for years, and my mom finally said, "What are you going to do with the car?" And I said, "I'll come and get it out." So I went to Illinois and got the car and brought it back to Ohio here, and it sat in my garage for many years. And then I decided, if I don't fix it up, nobody's going to fix it up, and there's too much history to the car.
So what did you have to do to it?
A total restoration. I have pictures of what the car looked like beforehand, and it was a total wreck.
Really?
Yes, and it took a lot of time to get it back together.
How long?
4 years.
The interior and the top is so clean.
Yes, it's an unusual color. It's called Sportsman Green. Most of the 50 Fords were that color on the exterior. In other words, you see a lot more of them that were the same color as the interior is
Yeah.
on the exterior of the car.
Oh, okay.
I guess my aunt saw it, picked it out, and liked it, I guess. That's what
She
happened.
knew you would own it one day.
Yeah, sure.
Not a usual guy for not a usual car, right?
yeah.
So what kind of looks do you get when you ride this thing around?
Oh, it catches a lot of attention, yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I like it just because the history behind it, that's the main thing.
How much did this cost when it was first purchased?
$2,300, I could get it out, but I believe it's around $2,360.
I'll give you $1,900 for it.
Yeah, because it's been driven, huh?
Depreciates, man. What do you want from me? It is a gorgeous car.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you very much for bringing it out today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for talking to us about it.
Okay.
Coming up,
I don't know, maybe something by the Partridge Family. I don't know.
it's not a bus, but that song would work. Welcome back to the second annual Classic Car Show at Manry Park from Willowick, Ohio on Cruise In.
I am standing next to Sophie, which is a 1955 Ford Country Sedan station wagon.
So the first thing I have to ask you is, why is it Sophie?
My wife's aunt was named Sophie, and when she passed away, I got a little inheritance money from her, and I used the money to buy this car. So I decided to honor her by putting the name on the back. And also that's her suitcases on the roof too. So
How long have you had the car?
I bought the car in 2008, so I'm like the third owner. I saw an ad in the Plain Dealer, and my wife and I drove out there, and I've always been a station wagon guy.
Really?
So I just bought the car.
It's not flashy though. Usually when
Yeah.
people buy classic cars, they're flashy. Like this is, what is it about station wagons that you love?
Well, I mean, nothing against, muscle cars, but I'm like into quirky things that you don't see too often,
Yeah.
Something that's a little unusual, obscure kind of. So,
And that explains the hula girl and Bob's Big Boy on the dashboard, right?
yeah, they're icons of the 50s,
Where'd you get those?
Well, the hula was my daughter's. She got it for a birthday present. I mean, Big Boy, of course, there's still Big Boy restaurants, so.
Mm-hmm. So most people take this car and they would replace the interior, but it's exactly the way it was. Why did you do that?
Well, not quite. I mean, it's pretty much the way it was. I mean, I've done some upgrades. Like I just had some body work done from like the belt line down a couple years ago because coming from Pennsylvania, there was a lot of rot on the rocker panels and floorboards and stuff. So really that's all I could afford. I mean, it's kind of like, this is like an ongoing project, I mean, when I can afford to do something, I do it.
How often do you get it out?
I mean, this is kind of unusual for me to just be at a show. I mean, I'm more into like the driving experience.
Yeah.
I just want the whole 50s time machine thing,
So do you play Beach Boys in it and all that stuff? Like you gotta.
Well, like I said, I just put an AM radio in this car, which is the correct radio, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of music on AM radio these days.
No, there's not. No.
Although I did find a station in Sandusky that was playing music, so
So if you had a soundtrack for this car, what would it be?
Wow. You mean like a song?
Like one song.
One song? I don't know. Maybe something by the Partridge Family.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know.
There you go.
Something
It
with a
looks
lot of-
like it. It looks the
yeah,
part
right.
for that.
Something
Exactly.
with a lot of kids, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. They're all sitting in the back, and
Yeah,
you're telling them, quiet down and
Yeah.
turn this damn car around.
I'll turn this car around right now.
Well, we appreciate you bringing it out. I'm glad you didn't turn it around. You brought
Yeah,
it here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
All
showing
right.
us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Have a 1963 Corvair ramp side pickup made
How
by
long-
Chevrolet.
How long have you had this?
I've had it about 23 years.
23 years. How'd you get it?
Well, I found it in an ad in one of the national cruising magazines. A gentleman down in Roswell, Georgia had it, and he bought it from an estate.
So what drew you to this car? Were you looking for something like this, or was it just random?
Oddly enough, when I was 8 years old, I was reading a go-karting magazine, and they had two guys loading a go-kart in a ramp side pickup, and I thought that was really cool.
Did it look like this when you got it?
Kind of, sort of. What we did is the gentleman that had it before me, he had the whole bed splatter painted, and it just didn't really meet up to my standards. So we both came up with the idea of, hey, let's put a wood floor in there. So I called a guy up in Minnesota, told him my idea, and he was like, yeah, sure, give me the measurements, I'll make it up for you.
So it was more necessity, that bed, than it was what you wanted.
Exactly, but it came out better than I expected.
I would say it looked gorgeous. So the interior, it looks basically how it was, right?
Not really. It was actually brown when we originally picked up the truck.
Oh.
And again, when we were going through and doing all this, he says, you know, while we have everything torn apart, why don't we take the interior and why don't we redo that? I've already got the paint mixed up and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we might as well do that. And the seats we put in boat material so they could take a little bit of the, if somebody spilled something on it, there
Yeah.
wasn't any problem.
So you're not worried about people sitting in there?
No, not at all.
So what's your favorite part about this car?
I would say basically the engine compartment and the lift-up engine cover. That gets a lot of people's attention, and that and just being a forward control vehicle, it's a different feeling when you're sitting in front of the wheels compared to most of the time when you're driving, you're used to sitting behind the wheel.
It's a tiny little front end. Is there an engine up there?
No, that actually is in the back.
So, do you feel a difference with that? It's way
No.
back there, right?
It's not bad. I own two other Corvairs, so I guess this is the third one I got. And I guess I got used to having the engine in the rear, so I really didn't notice any big difference.
The paint job, is this what it was when you got it, or?
It was this shade, and when we started doing the work, Kevin, when he was painting it, he said, it's impossible to match it. You know, he just said, it's easier to redo the whole thing than try to spot paint it.
Well, it looks gorgeous. We appreciate you bringing it out. And hey, you got 3 of them. Glad you brought this one out.
Thank you very much.
Coming up,
Say 1/8 of an inch in the front, that will translate probably to about an inch, inch and a half in the back.
the Buckeye guys evaluate a bent frame. Next.
Welcome to this edition of Cruising with the Buckeye Guys. Today we have a common restoration problem, and it's a big problem in the industry. Most car restorers never get their unibody straightened or their frame straightened on their full frame body shells or cars before any work starts. For instance, here I have a brand new Dennis Carpenter tub in front of me here on a frame from a customer supplied, and we mocked up the body shell today to show how off the frame is. Now this frame here is stock off a 50-year-old Bronco, and of course, nothing straight on it. So I had to bring the old man here out of retirement to explain how do you get a frame level, and he's gonna explain that very well to us. Go, old man.
When you build a house or a construction project of any type, your foundation must be level and square. The same process also applies to a body shell or a body frame. And in the case of this one here, what we did right off the bat, we brought it in, we shot measurements using a laser level, okay? And the idea of checking your frame out, if you get your frame level and straight, all your sheet metal, everything goes together much, much easier. If you're off say 1/8 of an inch in the front, that will translate probably to about 1 inch and a half in the back if it's twisted.
Right, in all cars, 1/8 of an inch is factory specifications for being out of alignment. So over 100 inches, you gotta be within spec by 1/8 of an inch.
So consequently, what we did is we measured from points on the body, front, A pillar, B pillar, and the rear. For us to do this, straighten out, we're probably looking at maybe 3 or 4 hours to have it all taken care of, where if you don't get your frame straightened, you'll be here days trying to get this thing straightened. But to get a frame straightened, you're looking at $200, maybe $300 at the most, depending on how bad it is.
If there is a diamond in the fender at its relaxed state, you know you're twisted. And what I mean by a diamond is, there's a V right here, and this body shell here on this frame is pushed to the right. And what this straight edge is going to show you, the diamond, and if you look at it, it's over 1 inch, and that shows up because we're 1 inch out of square on this whole frame when we measured it out. So you go here, and you go up, it gets smaller and smaller, but the diamond will show up down here because the frame's that twisted. Oh, it's way off.
Yeah.
It's way off. It's over 1/2 inch. It's a half going to the hole.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a 1/2 inch off. The laser does not lie. The laser's always level. We got the floor measurements, we got the body heights, the frame heights, and that's how we figured out the frame measurements here and how far it was off. We recommend if you're going to get a new frame for your Bronco, go to Crawler's Edge and talk to Thomas down here in Tennessee. He has really great frames, and we worked with him on his frames and our body shells, and they are fantastic. Give him a call at Crawler's Edge. Don, what's the words of wisdom? Start with a good foundation.
Start with a good foundation, it'll be a better product.
And as always, these Dennis Carpenter shells are built square and level, and the issue comes down to the frame that's going on. Thanks for tuning in with the Buckeye guys. 330-533-4757 in Canfield, Ohio. Keep cruising. See you next time.
Coming up,
No, it's a daily driver for me, man. Yeah, it's daily driver. Drive it everywhere, man.
no trailers for this guy, next.
From project to pride and joy, the restoration specialists at Buckeye Classic Car Restoration can make your dreams come true. Our master body, paint, and mechanical technicians have over 100 years of experience. They do research, can communicate every detail of the restoration process, and their restorations win big-time awards. Buckeye Classic Car Restoration cars have been winning awards since 2001. Let the restoration specialists at Buckeye Classic Car Restoration turn your project into an award winner.
Now back to the second annual Classic Car Show at Manry Park in Willowick, Ohio on Cruise In.
This is my 1950 Pontiac Silver Streak.
Where did you get this?
I found it actually in a warehouse tucked away in Madison, Ohio, about 30 miles east of me where I am at in Chardon.
And it looked just like this when you found it, right?
Oh, no. It was covered in a thick layer of dust, stuck in a climate-controlled warehouse, and hadn't been on the road in years.
How'd you find it?
Actually, my wife found it online. Somebody was advertising it, and the pictures that we had saw, it was pretty much the way it looks now. Nice and shiny and just had a nice look to it, and we got there, covered in that layer of dust, and
Wasn't the same thing.
was not the same car, no. I even asked the guy, I said, I thought you said this was a running driving car. And he goes, oh, it was a running driving car when I parked it.
So what did it take to get it running?
Just spraying some ether down in the carburetor just to get it to fire up, and once we got it fired up and pulled it out of the garage, it saw its first little bit of sunlight in a while, drove it right down the road, dust flying off of it like it had never missed a beat, like it was never off the road.
So why this car? Were you looking for this particular, or were you just looking for an old car?
I
What
mean,
was
I
it?
knew I was looking for I'm a total kind of greaser, 40s, 50s kind of hot rod guy, so I knew I was looking for something GM that was four-door so I can have the kids in it. You could tell it's a GM, it's just the same body style, but the waterfall grille and all the extra chrome, and it's like, oh wow, it's a Pontiac. And you just do not see a lot of Pontiacs on the road anymore, especially like the 50 style Pontiacs.
I'm glad you brought up the grill because it is gorgeous. It looks,
Yeah.
It's so clean and almost welcoming to the
Yeah,
car, you know what I mean?
and the Indian Chief still lights up too, so that's
Really?
still, yeah, that still works.
This car, you trailer it everywhere you go. You don't drive this.
Oh,
right?
of course, I never drive at all. No, it's a daily driver for me, man.
Really?
Yeah, it's a daily driver. Drive it everywhere, man. Car
Daily
show,
errands?
run errands, going to school in it for becoming a barber. You name it. Anywhere that I can, anywhere that I can get it out at.
Really?
Any chance I can get.
Gallon of milk?
Absolutely. Gallon of milk, do some groceries, pick kids up from school, embarrass them in it.
Oh, there's no embarrassing. They might be embarrassed now, but later they will be extremely proud they rode in this car.
Yeah, I would hope so.
So as a young guy, when you go to car shows, you bring this out, what's the reaction you get from the old timers?
Yeah, and that's the one thing that gets appreciated on it a lot is the fact that I'm a younger guy that does it. I like spending a lot of time with these guys because I really pick their brains and try to get as much information out of them as I can because it's a breed that's like once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
You got to talk to these guys hand in hand. If I ever run into a Pontiac guy anywhere. At a show, it's like, even if it's like the same exact car, it's like, let me just sit down and talk to you for 15 minutes because I just want to know everything that I can find out about you. So if I ever have an issue on this thing, I might be able to, backlog something.
So we live in an era of everybody loves big back ends. You have a big back end on this car.
And it's been lowered 3 inches too.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. So
Kardashian style. I like it.
I wanted to lower the car to kind of give it a hot rod look, and so I slammed the back end on it 3 inches, and I thought about dropping the front until I showed it to my 83-year-old grandfather. My grandfather is an old greaser from back in the 50s, and when he saw the back end lowered in this thing, he absolutely loved it. He was talking about all the cars that he did that to back in the day when he was my age, and was just ecstatic that I actually just, thought it to make it like that 50 style tail dragger. So at this point, the front end is staying stock. It's not getting lowered because it's got my 83-year-old grandfather's approval.
And where did the Hula Girl come from?
Kmart.
Even better.
Yeah, Kmart.
If you missed all the cars out here at Manry Park in Willowick, Ohio, don't worry about it. It's only the second year they're doing it, and it's only getting bigger. Thanks to everybody who came out to the show, put it on, and to you for tuning in. I'm Will Burge saying so long from Cruise In.